said the advantage we had was just like in anything in life. The Amazing Race is this microcosm of it. 1 second you're on top of the world, the next second you're in the back of the pack and everything's going against you. And it's in those moments of what happens. And I always said that Chris and I could lean.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast. This is the podcast where you hear the real stories of people just like you who become extraordinary leaders. You'll learn valuable lessons from their lives, lessons that you can apply to become the best leader you were created to be. When leaders are intentional, lives are changed. I'm your host, Sean Olson. I'm a business owner, executive coach, author, and host of the Intentional Leader Podcast. Help us out today. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave some awesome comments, and make all the algorithms of all the platforms as happy as can be. I appreciate your time. I know it means a lot, so thank you for listening in today or watching. Today, fans and listeners, you are in for a treat. My guest today is Alex Boylan. He is a TV producer and host of a TV show and so much more. And you'll find out today he is just an engaging, fun guy. Alex, welcome to the Intentional Leader Podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Sean.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, normally we dive in, we talk about leadership lessons learned through our professional careers. And you have one of those pinnacle moments where you were kind of put on the map and became a known entity in 2002. You believe that's like it's almost 25 years ago now. Alex, time's flying.
Crazy, I know.
But in 2002, season number 2 of the television show, reality TV show, The Amazing Race, you proved to be the amazingest racer that season, didn't you?
I lost that last second.
That's all right. You ended up being the amazingest racer on that whole show.
I was very fortunate to win that show. Amazing.
So what went into that? I mean, people have probably seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's a show that they jump around country to country around the world and pursuing clues. There's individual events, team events. Talk about that experience and what it taught you about working with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, imagine the biggest scavenger hunt basically around the world. Teams of 2. Anyone who's last to each leg of this race is eliminated. And the goal is to be the last one standing, right? So, 55,000 miles I think we covered. It's almost like twice around the globe in my season.
Wow.
It's still the closest race in history because after all of that, we won by about 20 yards in that final race in San Francisco, sprinting up this hill. I mean, it was obviously a massive pivot in my own life, being part of it really is amazing, especially back then, if you can imagine, as you remember, when it was appointment programming, right? It wasn't all these streamers. So 8:00 on Wednesday night, The Amazing Race is on. You had millions of viewers watching. But for me, what translates from a production, imagine I'm a young guy. I'm 24 years old when I'm racing around the world. I couldn't believe that there was a job for a travel producer. So all those producers, 1,000 people hired around the world to make that show possible. So number one, it gave me my spark being like, what is that for a job? I'm going to chase that for the rest of my life because it's pretty cool. And then on the other side, the adventure side of it was amazing. When you got a network like that, we were the first people to rappel off Sugarloaf Mountain in Brazil and get to do all these once in a lifetime opportunities. So it really is amazing. It was an amazing point in my life. But I would say, I was fortunate to do that show with a gentleman by the name of Chris Luca. We've known each other since kindergarten, and both of us ended up being Division I athletes and played high school sports together. So I always said the advantage we had was just like in anything in life. The Amazing Race is this microcosm of it. 1 second you're on top of the world. The next second, you're in the back of the pack and everything's going against you. And it's in those moments of what happens. And I always said that Chris and I could lean on at that point in our life, athletics and leadership that comes in athletics, because I would say we made one pact to each other that was no matter what happens, we're never going to quit. We're never going to stop racing as fast as we can. That was the only thing we said to each other. And I'm happy to go pull this apart in any direction you want to go, Sean. But I would say that was what differentiated us. And there was plenty of times in the actual race that we felt like, it's over. but we just
Yeah.
never acted on that feeling and said, we will wait until Phil Kogan, the host of that show, says, you've been eliminated. We're going to go 1,000 miles an hour.
That's awesome. In business, in life, perseverance and resilience win out, right? And it is so easy to stop. And I even think about that situation with that race. If you stopped, it doesn't really negatively impact your life, right? Just you lose, you go back home, you have the experience, however far you got in the race, but you persevere through that. But when you think about our jobs, our families, our lives, the need to persevere, the need to have that resilience when it really matters makes a big, big difference. So, have you seen that resilience that you and Chris had carry forward now as you've gone into your career as a producer?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the sayings I say a lot, Sean, when I'm speaking, especially to younger people, it's like, stay in the game. Half of
Mm,
life in business or whatever it is, it's like, just stay in the game.
yeah.
Because most people, it doesn't matter where you are, will quit, will give up, and take the easy route out. So if you can just hang in it, chances are, and I would definitely say in the world of where my life has gone, in the world of media and entertainment, it is not easy trying to create
Yeah.
shows, sell shows. Like the media business is a really, really tough business. Like lots of businesses out there. And I say to this day, the reason why I'm still here is because I just didn't quit. It's the same thing as the Amazing Race. I just, there are years of feast and there are years of famine, but just trying to just hang in there is, I'd say, allowed me to be where I am at this stage of my career.
I really appreciate that and realizing that it goes in all stages, right? All facets of life. Just don't give it up. Pivot, make adjustments, but don't ever quit. Don't
Yeah,
stop at it.
yeah.
So you're at the Amazing Race. You fall in love with this idea of production. So what did you do to begin pursuing that?
This is way back. We're in the early 2000s. Fell in love, as I mentioned. I got in my car and traveled across the country, and I
Really?
didn't, with no real plan, but saying I want to be a travel producer, and moved to the city of LA and just started taking any job that came my way. And they're only for 99.9% of people trying to break into the entertainment business, there's no easy path in. You just got to start at the bottom and start kind of figuring it out. And
Mm-hmm.
it is a complex business where I would say there isn't like one set path to get where you want to go. And my first job was in casting for the TV show
Okay.
Blind Date, and
Okay.
and then, but ironically, and I would say one of the best decisions I ever made. It wasn't a big pivot, but there was a couple areas called me their hometown kid, where I kind of got a little extra press. One was in Boston, where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
On the show, we were named the Boston Boys, but I went to school at Jacksonville University in Jacksonville, Florida. There happened to be a tiny production company there called Pine Ridge Film and Television. Jerry Smith, who ran that production company, still my mentor to this day. He's getting up in his late 80s. And a producer from there had called about an opportunity. And it was, one of those things where the right time, the right opportunity, but all that preparation in life that got me to
Yep.
that moment is what mattered, because I get a call from a producer saying, here, we have this show. We think you might be a good host. I kind of almost went all in, like dropped everything, drove back across the country for this
Wow.
meeting. They told me when they were like, well, Alex, we'll call you if it all works out. And I was like, and I said to them, I go, how do I show up to this office every day, this media, this production company? This is what I want to do. And Jerry Smith offered me this sales job, commission only, selling stock footage to news stations in the back of the bus. But I said, I'll do anything to be able to show up here. And so I was hawking stock footage on the phones every day. And about a year later, the show that he had been thinking about came to fruition. And that became my opportunity to get on camera. And then kind of the next chapter of life took off. So, the right opportunity with the right time, it's hard in life. And if you look at business or families or different ways, like, when do you take that leap? When do you
Yeah.
need to pause? Those are hard decisions in that kind of
They
gray
are.
area of life. And it's one of those ones where I was young enough where I could recover, but I'm glad I felt that opportunity. It was like gut instinct. I need to be there. I need to meet that person in person. And it really, became an amazing next kind of like 5-10 years of my life with that production company.
That's incredible. What I really like about that story, though, is it in part goes back to that perseverance, right? Going after it. But there's so many people who are looking for that right thing. Like, this is my job, and they want to have that thing they're most passionate in. And I'm a firm believer we need to be in positions where we're passionate, do something we're passionate about, no matter what it is. But sometimes, like what you did, it's putting us in proximity to the passion so that when the door opens, we're standing right there and ready to walk through it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's, life is, if I look at all the big moves in my life that helped me, there's 1,000 tiny moves that led to that moment that I was prepared for that moment. And one of those pieces, and I think about this a lot, especially with leadership for this, I got really comfortable, Sean, being
Mm.
uncomfortable. And I think that is where like a lot of leadership in my life kind of stemmed from, was just getting comfortable making decisions where I don't have all the answers. I'm not 100% prepared for this moment, but I was willing to take that step. And I think the more you can do that, the more all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know what this feeling of uncomfortableness is. I know
Yeah.
I got to take one foot into the forest to see a little bit farther down the road. I use that in business all the time with our team.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just not going to see what's on the other side here, but you got to take that first step, and every step along the way will start showing is this the right path for this company to go or not. So hope that makes
I agree
sense.
with that.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. And I like it's the fearless aspect of it. I mean, it's still calculated risk. We're not going to do something ridiculous and put ourselves in a position where everything's thrown away, but it's taking a calculated risk, taking a step. But I like the way you articulated that at the beginning. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to have all the data, all the information. Sometimes you just got to go and
Yeah.
figure out what's going to come from it. So, what was that show then that opened up for you when you're in Jacksonville?
It was ironically a cooking show. It was called At the Chef's Table for
Okay.
PBS. But that was another moment. If you want me to share the story of my
Please,
first time
please.
on camera, okay. So, all right. So I fall in love with being a travel producer. Let's call it an Amazing Race. Now I'm kind of in this production company. They're making TV shows. I'm not really part of it, but I'm showing up every day. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it goes from that to Jerry saying, I've been watching you. Because what I told him when I got to that, I go, I will sweep your floors for free if I could come here. I tell people all the time, if you're trying to get in the door anywhere, if you tell them you'll sweep the floors for free, chances are they might be like, this guy's humble enough to come in here. Anyway, so now this show gets greenlit, and he comes over and he goes, Alex, because you've been, hawking this footage and I've been
Yeah.
seeing you kind of work daily. He's like, we're going to give you the show. Like congratulations, you're the host. I have no experience hosting shows. And I'll never forget, it's another one of those moments. We were filming on a crab fishing boat in Amelia Island, Florida, in the middle of August. And I remember showing up. There's all these camera crews. It's like 9,000 degrees outside. They're putting dryer sheets on my chest because I'm sweating. I'm so nervous, Sean. And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, I'm like, there's way too many
Yeah.
eyes on me. And I remember Jerry, my mentor now, he pulls me aside. He's like, do you feel like a fraud, Alex? And I was like, 100%. He goes,
Yeah.
listen, in this business, you're never going to, I still feel like a fraud. So listen, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You got the seat at the table. Let's go get this on. And I remember anyway, that was the beginning of that show. And, it turned out to be the number one food show on PBS during its run. So I got
Great
over
story.
here. Yeah. Yeah.
Great story. I love Amelia Island too, but I can just envision that crab boat and the heat and everything's coming down.
I wanted to run so far in the opposite direction, Sean. It wasn't funny.
That's one of my favorite restaurants there too. The Crab Shack on Amelia is a great place to eat. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So you do that for a long period of time and you learn more of the ropes of the business, right? And
Yeah.
I'm going to take your word fraud and pull it into the business context a lot. Leaders feel like a fraud / imposter all the time. You just got to keep going. That's not being fake. That's not being dishonest. It's just, again, that perseverance.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's so easy to feel like an imposter. Like no one. I mean, we're all people on this planet, right? We all have our
Exactly.
different journeys and pathways in life, and I think when you're put into, I mean, obviously there's different skills that you can learn along the way and growth, but I would say the older I get, the more people I am responsible for, whether that's
Mhm.
humans, my family, and just the people inside the college tour, different productions you may be running. I think, I don't know, like now I'm more like humble about it, being like, and more
Yeah.
open, even speaking to like the way I speak to my staff. I bet any of them, I'm like, I'm very real. I want them to look at me like a teammate. And I'm like, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to take these steps and these things that I've learned along the way and do it with you alongside you, and hopefully go together. And that's seemed to be at least the way I've been able to lead and kind of grow in my life.
You're the Jerry to them.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
become that. And that's how we pass it on and help it grow. So fantastic cooking show, number one on PBS. That's moving well. Then you transition to what? What comes after that?
The big next move was a show called Around the World for Free. So it's the first, this is 2008.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long story to get here, and I'll spare you that way. I was filming down in El Salvador, all kind of hell broke loose. Anyway, everyone told us not to leave our hotel and don't go up this favela in the back of our, we'll die. And I
So you
remember
did
going,
it anyway, right?
honestly, exactly right. I was like, when I'm sitting there with my camera guy, this guy Jolt Luca, we've filmed all over the world together, and I was like, why would I die walking up there? Right? And so whenever it was all this terrible weather, anyway, when the skies cleared, I was like, let's see if we can make it to the top of the mountain and not die. And he brought a camera out and he filmed me. And what do you think happened? We're in the middle of like the poorest area of a poorest area inside El Salvador, and people were inviting me into their little shanty homes, and ovens were made out of like a trash can cut in half, and it was humanity at its like finest. It was so
Yeah.
pure. The storytelling was just, you don't do anything, just point the camera and
Mhm.
just see what happens with these real people. And that's where we said, like, how cool could you travel the world that way? And this is,
Wow.
YouTube's just coming out, Facebook's not out yet. So we set off with this mission of, can we talk about determination? Because trying to get this show off the ground was not easy. But the whole idea was, like, it's called Around the World for Free. And it's considered the first online interactive show ever created. At this stage, though, I go, yeah, we're going to make this show every day. We'll shoot and edit a 4-minute episode, and we'll put it up online. What everyone does on YouTube and Facebook and all that,
Right.
like, this wasn't being done back then. So with this idea, I was like, we gotta do, it's like the first kind of like travel vlogger, let's say, in real time. So came back across the country from Jacksonville back to LA, armed with this idea. Let's create Around the World for Free.
Right.
So I never set off to create a production company. I actually set off to create this production. Sean, everyone told us no. I mean,
Mm.
every network told us no, sometimes twice, right? And we were just
Wow.
everyone loved the idea. Like, and I would get really great compliments from really important, this guy named Gen Maynard. I mean, he's credited with bringing Survivor and Amazing Race to CBS. I can remember an email from him saying, Alex, I love this. This reminds me of the early days of Survivor when no one thought this show was going to work. But it's
Mhm.
not for CBS, too much of a risk for us. Like, no one could get their head around this short form interactive content. Anyway, we got the CBS early show to bite and to follow the journey. And so
Yeah.
back then it cost $100,000 to build a website where there'd be a two-way interactivity. What you can do
Okay.
now on a Facebook page, right? Just to give you an idea of
Exactly.
context of time, right? Anyway, CBS early show got behind us. We set off with the mission, can I make it around the world with no money? One camera crew's following me around, right? Is we're gonna shoot and edit, and you're gonna, here, you can stay with me in Ohio and I'll get you down to here. And anyway, the show worked. We went down the East Coast, through the Caribbean, through South America, up Africa, across Southeast Asia, 129 webisodes over 159 days. And that kind of blows up the next part of my career because no one was doing online interactive content like that.
Right.
And that one little idea where everyone said no, Sean, right?
Yeah.
CBS came back in, wanted to buy the franchise. We repackaged all those online segments into 11 1 hours, and it got sold to 100 countries around the world. So that's how Around the World Productions took off. It wasn't, oh, I want to start a production company. No, it was like,
Right.
I got this mission to do this one thing. And it just so happened that thing worked, right? And that kind of
Mhm.
dovetails the next chapter.
That's crazy cool. And so I love that something great came out of, again, taking a risk, right?
Yeah.
We're going to hear no in life. And sometimes when we hear no, it's for our benefit. Sometimes when we hear no, we need to go after it. You know, when you talk about all these producers and everybody else saying, great concept, keep going after it, I want it, but we're not going to do it. That's where people begin to question and say the idea doesn't have value. No, just because that person won't invest in it doesn't mean it's not worth being invested in
Totally.
and going after it. And so, what an incredible story. And I guarantee our listeners right now are going, dude, you've been everywhere. You've done all these things. And
Yeah. Wear no, I tell this, when I'm speaking on college campuses, wear no like a badge of honor. Because if you can't hear the word no, you should not be in the world. And there's plenty of businesses like this, right? But the world of entertainment, you will hear no, and you will hear it a lot. So the more you can just be like, sounds good, and move forward through that. If you can't handle the word no, you're probably not going to do well in the producer state, because it's just the nature of the business,
It is.
That's just how it works. So it's kind of like sales, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So currently you have a show on Amazon called The College Tour. Talk about the inception of that.
Yeah, so that is super fun. First time I've ever created a show based on an actual problem, and there's great merit in that. Fix people's problems, and you usually got a good idea. So 6 years ago, my niece, she's from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. She's given by her mom, my sister, one trip to go look at college campuses. And she's like, I want to go visit. I'm in LA. She goes, I want to go visit Uncle Alex in LA. So imagine my niece comes out over here. I haven't thought about college since I went to college. And and so we spent about a week going around all these different campuses. At the end of this kind of time, this 4 or 5 days she's here, I can remember we're sitting at the dinner table and she's looking at her mom, my sister, and she's like, okay, I want to look at some schools in New England where you and Uncle Alex grew up. I want to look at some schools in Texas and Florida. And like any normal young person, she wanted to travel the country, look at every campus. Well, she didn't come from a family, very few families have that kind of money. And my sister looks and goes, we don't have the money for that. I told you one trip, if it wasn't for your uncle being in Los Angeles, we probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
That story stuck with me. Isabel is like millions of young people who has the money to go. It's almost $2,000 on average for a family to take their family outside of their local area and go on a college tour. Think about hotels and gas and all that stuff adds up.
Right.
And so I was like, how come there's not a television show about college campuses? So armed with this mission of, yes, there's nothing better than stepping foot on a college campus, but is there a way to create a formatted TV show? And can we bring the college experience to them, whether it's on their phones or in their computer screens, television, what have you? So it was from that simple idea, and 17 seasons, 200 episodes later on Amazon Prime, but we use real students telling real stories on these college campuses. And it's just been an absolute blessing of a show and a production, and also shows what happens when you fix a problem. Because I think we fixed the college search problem.
And there's plenty of problems out there. I have watched a handful of those episodes now, and I love the format where obviously it's about that university and letting prospective students see it, understand it, things like that. But I love your interviewing of students, not just faculty or staff, and just getting that student perspective for prospective students. But here's my question. When you first started getting into this, you were known in the entertainment world, but probably not in the academic world. So what was the reception like from universities as you're calling them saying, hey, I'd love to do this? I know today it's like they got to apply, and I'm sure you have tons of universities that want it. What was that like early on?
Yeah, I'd say we learned a lot of how we needed to package this show. But if I fast forward today, I have a lot of schools that said they needed higher education, needed someone somewhat ignorant like you, Alex, right? Outside of higher education.
A non-academic, right?
Does that make sense? Because they say, we get stuck, like every vertical can kind of get stuck in their own kind of, this is how we do things. They go, so this idea could not have come from within higher education because it's so out of the box and so kind of how we're going to approach it. So, but the beauty of what we do is, as you mentioned, every episode is different because that culture of that campus, the type of students that we need to cast, and how we pull their real stories out. To be honest, like the first draft of every script, we've done thousands of students. We give them kind of formats, but we have the student write their story. Because
Yeah.
if we just come in here from producers or the institution, it's going to sound like a bunch of marketing speech. No, I want your story. I want your heart, and that's what's going to resonate with the next generation. So, um, I would say, I've been around the block enough in this business on how to create a formatted show. So I would say the format stayed the same. We just fine tuned it, right? So early
Yeah.
on, for instance, when you're watching the show now, those are their real stories, but they
Hmm.
are scripted. We're working with the student to get that story down on paper, working with
Sure.
them on their on camera personality to make sure they can deliver it in front of a camera crew and all of that. Early on, Sean, I show up the first episode. I didn't want him to sound rehearsed. So I was just like doing these walk and talks with the students. And I realized I'm like, we got to script these things. So there's lots of things that we were just
Yeah.
making the show in the wrong way that we have kind of fine tuned over the years. But go back and look at episode 1, season 1. It's still kind of the show still holds up. So the format
Yeah.
of like real students, real stories, I think just worked.
I love it. And it is just a great inside view. Like it's just real, right?
Yeah.
Because you're focusing on their stories, focusing on the good things of those universities, but it gives a true picture. Like some people are going to see things and go, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But that's a win, right? Because we don't want to waste our time and energy going somewhere that's just not going to be a fit for us. So I like that aspect of it's kind of the cultural fit for prospective students.
Yeah.
I could see myself there or I don't see myself there.
Thank you, because this is why we're making the show. And if you think about it, when you do, and once again, we hope you go to the campus if you can. But
Right.
when you go, and I just did this with my younger niece not too long ago. We went up the coast of Florida looking at a bunch of different schools. What happens? There's one other student typically giving that tour, whatever tour you get put into, right? There is a ton of who's the personality of the person giving the tour to who's the personality of the student on the other end taking the tour. So much in that one. I was watching my younger niece like watch these people and like, oh, is this a fit for me based on one other human? What's great about the college tours, most episodes we're featuring 10 different students. So you really get a much better sense of when you bring that word culture up. We say that all the time. Finding your cultural fit where you're like, these are my type of people. This is my type of campus. Does it make you feel good? Then you're going to probably stay there and graduate. You're going to have a better time and be more active on that campus. So all these little micro moves go into this decision that very fortunate to think that the college tour is playing a positive role in telling those stories.
It is. Have you had the opportunity at all to like track data to see how many viewers matriculate to those schools?
Well, we do it. Yes, it's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, I would say this: the biggest thing for the college tour, and this is like the iPed's data of higher education. On average, after an episode goes to air, after a year, there's a 5% increase in freshman enrollment and a 2% increase in retention. So it's like more students are going there, being aware of it, and then the right students at the right place because the retention goes up, right? Which every school wants. If you want to have the right fit, as you just mentioned, there's nothing worse than if you're I mean college is going to give you that breadth of different personalities and all those things. But there are some different institutions, going to a tribal college opposed to going to a small Christian college to going to a big state institution to, some liberal arts school. Like those are all different cultures and finding the place that you're going to thrive, that you're like going to love is so important.
Dramatically different. I love that approach to it and just helping those students find the right place.
Yeah.
What a gift and a blessing that is.
Yeah. And one other thing on this subject, think about if most places prior to the college tour, it was like the amount of data sets, the college search process for most families can be very stressful and very overwhelming. Where do I start? And one of my favorite things about the college tour is getting emails. We get these all the time from parents. And they say, you brought me closer to my student, right? I mean, my child, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like now they're watching an episode together and it gets the young person thinking. How is someone in high school starting how are they supposed to know, like, what am I supposed to study? Where am I supposed to go? But by just watching a show together, it opens up that conversation of, oh, that feels good, or I like that, and let's be honest, a 16-year-old is looking up to a 19-year-old, right? Like that.
Absolutely.
Cool. I always tell people it just goes back to that feeling I had on The Amazing Race of what is this person doing with their travel producer job because I like it. Young people, don't overthink this. Does your gut instincts be like that interests you? That's what you should chase for the rest of your life. Does that interest you? Are you excited about that path? Then go for it. So
That's fantastic. I hadn't really thought about that aspect of it, but I love the opportunity for students to sit down with mom and dad on the couch, sharing shoulder to shoulder time, relational time, and diving into something deep. I mean, this is like one of those first major life decisions, right? Where am I going to go? And you're actually bringing the family together. And by answering questions through those profiles of those schools, you're helping families draw closer and find success together. That's a huge benefit.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you have some great stories of those students after the fact. Well, hey, I know that you've taken a dive into something else new here in the last year or so, and that is authorship. You have a new book out, kind of a memoir for you, and the title makes sense, The Miles That Make You. I think you've covered a few of those. Why the memoir and just a glimpse at what it's about?
The why is an interesting, one. I have a son, young son, and I have parents in their 80s. And so I find myself in this interesting part of life of just being like and because I'm on college campuses every single day of my life too, I'm trying to encourage them, inspire them to go and chase their dreams. So listen, the story is basically a story of my life, the ups and downs and trials and tribulations. And then I kind of have the last like 20% is designed for someone who's wanting to make a change in their life and some practical steps to go do that. But, I grew up, my father was a pastor. I grew up on the North Shore of Boston, very little money. I tell the story at the top of the book. I'm walking into the Goodwill closet of my church with my mom because there were no new clothes for me. I was either getting hand-me-downs from my brother or that's where I got it. And that wasn't to make me feel bad. That was just my life circumstances.
Sure.
So everything from there to selling 5,000 advent calendars to fund this year that I moved to Brazil, like I just tell like this journey of opportunities, chasing those opportunities. And hey, here's the type of life that I have. And that's the biggest thing I always say. It's like, we can't control the backpack that we're born with, but we can control what we do with it, where we go with it, how we wear it. Those are all controllable variables. And so I try to use that analogy throughout it of saying, hey, here's a blue collar kid from the North Shore of Boston. Look at what has been able to come out of, basically chasing opportunity, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. And it's a pretty fun read.
It is. That sounds awesome. I look forward to getting through that myself. I love that metaphor with the backpack, right? And how we drive that and how we take it different places. And I appreciate the last bit of the book's about change, because I'm a firm believer in this, and people struggle with this, but if you're not happy with where you are, if you're not happy with where your life is, you can't actually change it.
Yeah.
But you've got to go after it. And, normally in business, we use that phrase. I love the discomfort, by the way. I always say that my job as an executive coach is to make the leaders that I coach uncomfortable, because there's no growth in comfort, right? Mm-hmm. So in weightlifting, we call it no pain, no gain. In business, I say there is no growth in comfort. So you have to be uncomfortable with things. Change is uncomfortable. And traditionally we say when the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of change, we'll change.
Yeah, that's right.
Problem is that's usually too late because we're burnt out, right? And so when I look at you and how you've taken these steps, and yeah, you've been blessed in a lot of ways, but man, you're just happy and you're enjoying life. And I think people just need to have more of that joy of life. So kind of wrapping this a little bit, what would you say is the power of discomfort and change that allows you to have that smile all the time, Alex?
I think because I got used to it, and I always say, like, it's if you don't, that gray space that we talked about at the beginning, that space of being a little bit uncomfortable, but a little excited too.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, that's a beautiful place to get comfortable and learn about, and even the feeling of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know when I have that feeling, I'll just take the college tour. It's a pretty big business now. It's lots of products we do here for lots of universities and institutions. When I'm waking up thinking about it and I'm kind of a little nervous, I'm like, oh man, should I do or not? I love that. But that's 30 years of getting comfortable in that space. So to me, for maybe the listeners out there, it doesn't need to be some big bold move, right? I mean, it could
Right.
start with like, I am going to walk a different way out of the parking lot. I'm going to go to the gym at a different time today. Like, in order, we all have these pathways in our brain, and we kind of like, get used to doing things the way we do it. You don't need to like make some massive change. If you just start training the brain to do things a little differently, change things up here and there, that's how I believe you can kind of get to maybe some of these bigger ones. So to me, it's like, you can't try to, you don't eat an elephant. Oh, you know what I mean? How do you eat an elephant? One at a time, right?
One
and
bite
so
at a
like
time.
small incremental moves, for me, I thrive in. Like, if I'm a little nervous about something, I love it. And maybe that's not for everyone, but I think if you can get and get used to it, it's okay failing. It's not everything's going to work. I think that's another thing in my life, Sean, that I am comfortable, and I talk about it openly. People think of all the cool things I've done that worked. 99% of the things I've done did not work. You never heard of them because it didn't work. And so I think the more you can fail, and then you get some wins, because some of it's just, not everything's going to work out in life. Some is, some's not. And then you can get a lot more comfortable talking about it, being open and honest with your team about it. It's like, all right, we win it, guys. It's not working. It's okay to sometimes say that. And we got to go pivot over here. It's like, we made a wrong call. I say that all the time. Like, my bad. You know what I mean? Let's pivot here. And so I think it's, all those things, those little micro movements and decisions that can add all up to that.
But it's a mindset. It's that mentality that it's okay. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to make mistakes. And I'd even go to another level of like, one of the biggest things that kills small business is something has worked. I know past tense, it has worked, but it's not working anymore. And it's a dead horse and they won't shoot it. Right. And it's like, no, let it go. Just this past year with our company, we had a proprietary program, the Intentional Leader Academy, 5 years old. We loved it. It was a passion play for us. It ran its course. And so we're not running it anymore. Did it hurt to shut it down? You better believe it did. Did it have 4 or 5 great seasons? Yes, it did. But there's something else coming on the backside, and it's okay. And yeah, I'm with you. We have the memoir, the miles that make you. We could also have the memoirs for both of us of the mistakes that didn't kill us. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Live to fight another day, right?
Exactly. That's awesome. Well, hey, Alex, we finish every show with the same question. It's a quick tip for our listeners. What is something our listeners can intentionally do today to lead more effectively?
I think to lead more effectively, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And try my best. And for me, personally, from a leadership, if I'm just being honest with everyone, a little empathy goes a long way. I really do try to I love the college tour, and every single person who contributes to that college tour, they're all going through their own life at that time. And I think one of my assets of life has been like knowing that person personally and knowing what they're sitting in. Because if I can do that, I can move them. I know what that human's going through. I can know what can motivate them. I know what's not going to motivate them. And so that's just been me. I'm not saying it's for everyone. Some people are, maybe running 2,000 people and they can't know every single people. It might be different, but if you know like that, I think is empathy, and trying to put myself in their shoes allows me to lead them better. And it allows us to have a better relationship and get to know the people that are the ones who are going to propel that company or that initiative forward better.
We lead humans. Very, very well put. Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. In the show notes, you'll find links to Alex's social. You'll find links to the college tour. And I want to challenge you, listeners, if you have family and friends who are at that time frame where their kids are looking at colleges, make them aware of the show, The College Tour on Amazon Prime. Have them tap into that and guide that journey. Alex, appreciate you. Appreciate your enthusiasm, the impact you're making on people. And thanks for being a guest on the Intentional Leader podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Sean. It's been an honor.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Intentional Leader podcast presented by Reenergize Professional Coaching. Be sure to see the show notes for links to Reenergize Professional Coaching and links to contact our guests. Now, hit that subscribe button so that you are alerted with every new episode of the Intentional Leader podcast.